Have you ever looked at the clock and realised 3 hours had passed by? And no, not because you were scrolling, and no, not because you were distracted, but because you were completely absorbed in what you were doing, playing music, reading a book, or even editing a project. Whatever it was, it held your attention so completely that time just disappeared. You certainly weren't worrying about how you looked, and the commentary in your head just disappeared. Well, psychology actually has a name for this. It's called flow. And flow might be one of my favourite concepts ever. And it's meant to be one of the most rewarding psychological states that we can enter, which is pretty cool. So why does flow feel so good? It temporarily changes where our attention is directed under normal circumstances. Many of us spend most of our time analysing what we're thinking and feeling. Research suggests that humans hold a remarkable capacity for self-awareness. But self-awareness does seem to come with a cost. When attention becomes excessively focused on the self, it can contribute to rumination, anxiety, and self-consciousness, as well as a hell of a lot of overthinking. Thinking about how much mental energy is spent on monitoring yourself genuinely feels exhausting. But why does flow feel different? Well, for that period of time, that monitoring system, that internal commentary, just disappears. Instead of directing attention inward, our attention becomes fully absorbed in the activity or task itself. The task becomes the focus. So who actually discovered flow? Decades before smartphones and social media, psychologist Csikszentmihalyi became fascinated with the question, what makes life genuinely enjoyable? After living through the Second World War, he became interested in understanding why some people became so resilient despite experiencing hardship and uncertainty. As he continued his research, he noticed that something particularly unusual among a certain group of people. Artists were describing it, athletes were describing it, musicians, scientists, people from completely different backgrounds were all describing the exact same psychological experience. A state of complete immersion, where the attention became focused, self-consciousness had faded out, and time felt distorted. The activity became rewarding in itself. And Csikszentmihalyi called this state flow. And interestingly, people rarely describe these moments as relaxing. They're described as engaging. And that distinction turns out to be quite important. So what actually creates flow? If flow is a real psychological state, what causes it? Well, according to decades of research, flow tends to emerge through several conditions. The first, clear goals. The brain needs to know what it's trying to do. When the goal is vague, your attention will then become scattered. And when the goal is clear, you're able to direct your attention directly to the source. The second is immediate feedback. You need to know whether what you're doing is working. For example, a guitarist will hear the note, or a writer will be typing sentences on a page. The feedback helps sustain engagement. But perhaps the most important factor, the relationship between the challenge and the skill. If the task is too easy, boredom will follow. If the task is too difficult, anxiety can overtake. It becomes too overwhelming to continue. And flow seems to emerge when there's a balance between the two. It's like this perfect tension, where the challenge is difficult enough that it requires your full attention, but not too hard that it becomes too overwhelming to continue. But flow doesn't seem to happen when you're comfortable. It happens when you're challenged just enough. So if flow is so rewarding, why don't we experience it more often? Well, part of the answer may just be attention. Flow requires substantial concentration, and modern environments tend to create fantastic distractions. Notifications, emails, algorithms, all competing for your attention. It's kind of a minefield on how to not get distracted. But not only that, research also suggests that switching our attention carries a huge cognitive cost. Every interruption that forces your brain to redirect its attention and is then unable to maintain the state of flow. And as we've discussed, flow depends on how much attention, how much time you can maintain that deep engagement with the task. For example, you may be completing your task and you get a call from your partner. Your brain suddenly has to switch from the task at hand to the phone call that you're making. And then once the phone call ends, your brain has to switch from the person that you were talking to back to the original task you were working on. And this is all very demanding and can later lead to other issues in the day like decision fatigue. And I think that many of us believe that focus is the problem. But realistically, we probably have an interruption problem. The average person can spend their entire day consuming information without ever becoming deeply engaged in any of it. And yet deep engagement is exactly what is required for flow. So how to create more flow? Any suggestions, Dirk? The good news is flow is not entirely random. While it can't be forced, certain conditions do make it more likely. So, how do we engage or practice flow? First, we have to choose an activity that feels challenging but equally achievable. So, not too easy that it becomes boring, but equally not too difficult where it becomes overwhelming. An example might be learning an instrument like the guitar. You start by picking it up, perhaps strumming a few chords, and maybe learning the string letters. The second would be to reduce as many interruptions as possible. As we've established, flow requires complete attention. Even small distractions can pull you from the experience. So put your phone away, shut the door, and get comfortable. And the third, focus on the process rather than the outcome. Flow emerges easily when attention stays within the task, not with the award waiting at the end, meaning the actual activity is the reward. Going back to the guitar example, you just keep strumming, and which chords sound good together and which don't. With enough time and practice, you'll get a song. Which moves us nicely onto our fourth stage, allowing enough time. Flow very rarely appears within the first few minutes of the activity. It often develops gradually as you settle into the process. Flow is a lot like bringing a pot to a slow boil. It's a state that you gradually enter rather than suddenly arriving at it. And perhaps equally as importantly as time, building competence. Many activities become more enjoyable as you develop the skill. What once felt frustrating can soon become very enjoyable, especially once you understand what you're actually doing. The difficulty doesn't necessarily disappear, but your relationship with the difficulty changes. So before we continue, think about the last time you completely lost track of time, when you were fully absorbed and completely undistracted by anything else but the task. How often does that happen to you now? And how might you create more of it to create space for flow? And this would not be a psychology video if I didn't give a nuanced perspective. It is very important that we don't exaggerate flow. Flow is not a cure for anxiety or productivity. And it is important to mention that flow is not a state that you should feel pressured to enter. And you probably won't experience it all the time. In fact, people sometimes experience flow in activities that aren't necessarily beneficial, like playing a video game. Lord knows that I have lost years of my life playing Sims, but equally things like gambling can create flow. Certain forms of work can create flow. The state itself is psychologically neutral. What matters is where it occurs and your intention behind flow. It's also important to recognize that some experiences require reflection rather than immersion. Things like grief and loss and major life decisions. Sometimes psychological well-being requires slowing down rather than being completely absorbed in a state of focus. And sometimes doing absolutely nothing really is the best kind of rest. So to summarize, perhaps the reason that flow feels so meaningful is because it gives us something very rare, our full attention. For a brief period of time, our attention is no longer fragmented or divided. It is becoming completely absorbed in that present moment. And maybe that's why so many people describe flow as feeling alive. Not because your life suddenly becomes better, but because you become fully engaged with it. So perhaps flow isn't about escaping life. Perhaps it's about finally paying attention to it.